Hello there, I'm Professor Maximilian Steiger. Today, we're going to dive into a question that really gets to the heart of everything we think about law and about our own lives. What's the real relationship between something being legal and something being moral? It's a fundamental puzzle, and together, we're going to unravel it.
You've heard this a million times, right? Maybe you've even said it yourself. Hey, if it's not illegal, is it right? It seems like such a simple question, but wow, does it open up a huge and often very confusing debate. Can we just use the law as our moral compass? Or is there something more we should be paying attention to? This is exactly where our investigation begins.
Now, to get some real clarity on this, we're going to turn to the work of a fascinating philosopher, Javier Harvada. His thinking gives us just a really powerful framework for understanding how these two massive forces, law and morality, actually fit together.
Okay, so to solve this puzzle, Harvada tells us that the very first thing we have to do is recognize that we're dealing with two different but deeply connected realities. You can think of them as two different kinds of maps from navigating our actions as human beings. So, on one side, you have the moral order. This is the big picture. It concerns literally every choice we make and how those choices relate to our ultimate purpose, our ultimate good. And then on the other side, you have the legal order, which is much more specific. It's zoomed way in, focusing only on justice in our social lives, what we owe each other. That's it. So, let's start with that bigger picture, that all-encompassing moral order. Honestly, the best way to think about it is like a complete architectural plan for a good life. It covers everything, every room, every detail. So, moral reality is basically the grand total of all of our voluntary actions. Every single choice that you and I make, guided by our intelligence and our free will, it all falls within this moral domain. It's a huge concept, right? It covers our character, what we intend to do, and the virtues we're all trying to build in our lives. And so it makes sense that the study of this reality, what we call moral science or ethics, is just incredibly broad. It doesn't just look at one little slice of our lives. It examines the whole thing. It asks how all of our conduct, all of our actions, lead us towards fulfillment and our ultimate purpose as people. All right, now let's zoom in. If morality is that entire building, that grand design for a good life, where in the world does law fit? Is it, a different building next door? Is it just the fence around the property? Or something else entirely? Let's take a closer look. And here's where you really see the contrast. Unlike the massive scope of moral science, legal science has a laser focus. I mean, it zeroes in on one specific virtue, the virtue of justice. Its whole job is to figure out what's fair and what's right when we interact with other people. Okay, so we've got the two orders defined, the massive moral world on one side and the very focused legal sphere on the other. So now we get to the crucial point, the whole reason we're here. How do they connect? And this is where Harvada's insight is just, well, it's brilliant. I mean, what do you think? Are these two separate worlds that just happen to bump into each other sometimes? Does the law sometimes contradict morality? Or is the relationship maybe a bit more intimate, more woven together? And there it is. The answer is so simple and so powerful. The legal order is not separate from the moral order. It actually exists inside it. So if morality is the entire architectural plan for the building, the law is the foundation. It's that essential part of morality that deals with our social structure and justice. And without that foundation, the rest of the building just couldn't stand. And Harvada himself just says it perfectly. The act of justice, giving another person what is rightfully theirs, is a human act. It's a choice we make. And because it's a human act, it is, by definition, part of moral reality. The law, then, is simply the science that's dedicated to understanding this one specific but vital part of our moral lives. Now, I know what you might be thinking. This sounds very philosophical, very abstract, but it has incredibly profound practical implications. So let's break it down. Why does this distinction actually matter in the real world, for us, today? Well, first, this understanding shows us the true limits of the law. The law's job is to keep society just, not to make you a perfect person. It can't force you to be brave or generous or kind. In fact, sometimes to prevent an even bigger social problem, the law might permit acts that are, frankly, immoral. But, and this is the key, for a law to be truly just, it must be aiming at a correct moral objective. And that leads to a powerful takeaway. Being a good citizen has to be about more than just not breaking the law. It requires real moral virtue.
Which brings us full circle, right back to where we started, but with a new perspective. It leaves us with one final, very powerful question to think about. If the law is only the foundation, a necessary but still incomplete part of that moral building, is simply being law-abiding ever really enough to be a good person?